Day 2 of Karen Read's trial has completed, and here's what happened today. Hi, my name is Sydney Rushing. I'm a criminal defense attorney in the state of Michigan. Now, let's get into it. As we know, yesterday's testimony ended with Kerry Roberts in direct examination, and today, that direct examination picked right back up. She was first talking about the taillight and how Karen said, "Do you think I hit him?" She pointed it out, and she talked about this metal piece that was pointing out. She also discussed that when they found John's body, she had to dig his head out of the snow. She said his face was completely covered in snow, and that she began doing chest compressions because she knew that that was an important part. She said Karen looked like she was trying to do breaths, or that she thought she might doing it right, but she knew that chest compressions were important, so she started doing that part. She said that John's body and skin felt cold to the touch, and when she was shown pictures of his injuries, she started crying. Now, a difference from Karen's first trial to this trial is that Miss Roberts was not cross-examined in that first trial. However, today, there was quite the cross-examination that happened. Needless to say, things got a little spicy. Jackson questioned Roberts about not mentioning the cracked taillight initially. He also said how that there was not any surveillance footage of her and Karen speaking in John's driveway about the taillight. I think Jackson did a really good job of showing that every single time that Kerry spoke with police, that Jennifer was with her. Jennifer is another big witness in this case, and she is the sister-in-law of the homeowner of where John's body was found, who is Brian Albert. While both sides agreed that Jennifer searched how long would it take for someone to die in the cold, they disagreed about when that search happened. The prosecutor says that it happened while Jennifer and her were in the back of a police car, and the defense said it was actually hours before. And things got a little spicy when Jackson backed Kerry into a corner regarding her grand jury testimony, where she said that she heard Karen Read say to Jennifer to make this Google search. And she then said, "No, I was told that that was what happened." And so essentially what this came down to was her giving the answer to Mr. Jackson of, "I said I misunderstood the question, Mr. Jackson. How convenient." Again, I don't think that this was a great look for Kerry or the prosecution, and I think Jackson did a great job with his cross-examination. Because again, here we have testimony changing and testimony showing that she was told to say something at a grand jury hearing, and again, trying to cover up a cover-up seems to be happening between the witnesses at this point. Then the prosecutors called their third witness, which was Peggy O'Keefe, which is John's mom. And they, questioned her about it. And a lot of the beginning questions, again, with this witness were irrelevant. They went into a lot of things. The only question that they truly wanted to get out of her is whether she leaned over the kitchen counter and said that he looks like he got hit by a car. She did not testify in the first trial. And when it came time to do cross-examination, the defense was classy and did what they should have done, which was they approached the bench and said, "I'm so very, very sorry for your loss. We have no questions." Because there was no questions that they were going to be able to ask at that time that would have gained them literally anything. And it's actually a good look because now you look good in the jury's eyes because you're not trying to, question the mom about this, especially when you don't have really anything relevant to ask. Then the parties debated about two separate clips from Karen's Dateline interview. And the first one, it was where she was saying that she felt like the mom thought that she hit him with the car and that she was uncomfortable. And the defense did not object to that coming in because they said that they don't believe that that's an admission of guilt, nor is it a consciousness of guilt. Now, clip number 5 is contested because in that one, she says, John's mom leaned over the table and said, "He looks like he got hit by a car." Prosecution wants to introduce this clip because they think it shows the consciousness of guilt. However, the defense is arguing that it does not show that. And one, it's more prejudice than it is probative because if they wanted to get that line of the interview in front of the jury, they could use the transcript. They just want to show the video because it makes her look bad because of the tone and the inflection. And instead that they should just use the transcript if that's really what they're trying to do. But we know the only reason that they called his mother at this point is because they're trying to get this piece of information in. However, the prosecutor is trying to take what Peggy said as the truth when we don't know that to be the truth. And this is maybe one spot the defense could have questioned Peggy in regards to, did you talk to anyone prior to today's testimony? Did you know what you were going to be asked? Because that may have changed how she answered those questions. The defense also showed that this would basically impeach their own witness, and you can't call a witness just to impeach them because this directly goes against what their witness testified to. So that's another thing to keep in mind, and Judge Canoni is going to make her ruling on that video tomorrow morning. Then the prosecutors called witness number 4, Nicholas Guarino, and oh my God, his testimony was so boring, because all it had to do with like basically his background in data search. He's the one who took the phones and took the data dumps on them, or what we call cell phone dumps, and made sure it was stored. And he's going to testify to a bunch of the text messages that happened between the parties. However, the judge ruled this morning that they weren't going to be able to do those until tomorrow, because the defense and her and the prosecutor need to be able to look at all of the messages. Literally, one of the questions that the prosecutor asked him was what barracks he was assigned to in the police academy. Oh my God. Has nothing to do with anything. At this point, you're just dragging this on for literally no reason. He was then excused as a witness, and there was no cross done because he's going to be recalled later in the trial. Witness number 5 was Daniel Whitley, and he is the one who was called in for a Section 12, which is what they signal for when somebody needs to be taken to the hospital for a psych evaluation, and it's an involuntary commitment. So he was called to the scene basically to take Karen into the hospital. He said at first she was combative, but then she ended up getting in the ambulance with him and they went to the hospital. He did say that she was combative with nurses and that she didn't want to provide a urine sample. Also happens to be Kerry Roberts' neighbor, but they barely know each other. And thankfully with this witness, Brennan asked him literally 2 questions before immediately getting to the day in question. Thank God. Nettie did the cross of Mr. Whitley, and boy was it entertaining. Started off a little slow because he talked about how he used the word to describe Karen's attitude as snarky, but that he didn't use that descriptor at the first time when he talked with police back in February of 2022. Then it got juicy. He pointed out the relationships not just between him and Miss Roberts, but also him and State Trooper Proctor, who we know is a big problem in this case. The day basically ended with Yannetti pointing out to Mr. Whitley and getting out of him that in comparison to everybody else that's involved here, Karen is an outsider. Quite interesting if you ask me. And the jurors were sent home for the day, and they were probably ready for that after today's testimony. And with that, I will wrap up this pretty long recap of Karen Read's day 2 of trial, and we'll come back here tomorrow and we'll have another update, and I hope you'll be here for it. Here's the question of the day. Do you think the defense should have asked Peggy any questions, or do you think they did the right thing by just giving their condolences and not asking any questions?